Roman baths. Cleanliness was important to the Romans, and every city had a public bathhouse. Baths were places for the community to gather and wash, socialise, exercise and relax, quite like a modern leisure centre. Everyone could visit them, including the poor, as the entrance fee was small and sometimes free. The bathhouse was made up of several rooms. After changing in the apoditerium, you entered the tepidarium, the main hall with a warm bath to relax in. You would rub oil on your body here before entering the caldarium, a very hot steam room and bath. The heat made you sweat, and a slave would scrape the dirt off your body with a metal strigil. In the frigidarium, there was a cold bath to cool down in. The palaestra was a gymnasium where young men would exercise. Women would bathe at different times or in different areas. Larger baths had libraries, cafes, and even gardens. There were beautiful buildings with domed ceilings and glass windows, and were decorated with mosaics, marble walls, and statues. The baths used underfloor heating, a hypocaust system. They were built on columns, so hot air from fires could circulate underneath. The walls were heated by clay pipes leading to the chimneys. Some were built on natural hot springs they believed had healing powers, and others had water transported from lakes by aqueducts. By 300 AD, Rome had over 900 baths. The largest was the Baths of Diocletian. It could fit 3,000 people and used a reservoir holding 20,000 cubic meters of water.
Welcome to the first of what will probably end up being a 5-part series, maybe 4, on the bathhouse. In case you're wondering where I am, I have my own sim. Nobody comes here, but that's beside the point. I do have my own sim, and I have the northern lights up. So that's what's behind me. I'm very, very fond of that. My girls love it. So anyway, let's get going on this. The bathhouse, I've been all over Gore, literally to all the cities. And what I've noticed that every single Gorian city has a bathhouse. They always do, but the bathhouse isn't being used. Usually, some people even rent them out, but I don't think they're making any money on them. So I decided to go ahead and do a series on the bathhouse. Now, there's some very good reasons for masters to use it, and there's some very good reasons for slaves to use it. Every master knows about the furs or the bed, depending if you're BDSM or Gore, and appreciates it a great deal. I think the bathhouse is underrated in the sense that you can do more. I'm going to get a little bit closer. Anyway, you can do a lot more with the bathhouse. Normal furring takes 30 minutes to an hour, and that's if you work it. The bathhouse takes anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. So basically it's a lot more intimate. There's a lot more details. The slave can rearrange it according to what she really wants to do. And I'll be honest, the intimacy that's built is a lot stronger. So I wanted to bring that up. I will put a link in this to where I stored all of the poses. I mean, everything's in there. I don't think you'll find a more complete set. And where I'm going to put the set of cards that goes with this particular teaching. One of the things that's going to be in there is there's a bathing accessories that you can get for free, like the towel, the bathing sponge, sturgle, and a tail wrap shirt. So my point is that that'll be in there for any of you want it, and I'll give it. Now, where it is, I put it in Nicus because in most cities you end up having to, it's easier to find it there, and you don't have a guards the gate that you can get past, which so many cities have. So when you go into Nicus, Normally you have to go and touch the ship to get into the city. Go down the docks, go right. Go all the way down, past the boats, and then go up the stairs. And to the left, you will find, straight ahead, you'll see a room with green, and it'll have a head, what looks like a boar's head above it, and it's called Jacobson's Trading Company. And at the base of it is a little box. If you tap on an open contents, you can take all of it out. And in there, you're going to find what I just showed you, the bathing accessories, a lot more details that I'm not going to put in this, because to be honest, this is probably one of the most detailed sequences you can get. And anything else you need, all that for free. Okay, let's go to work. This video will be short. It's an introductory video. I'm going to do the one, well, anyway, we'll talk about that later. Let me line my stuff up. And here we go. For today, I'm going to focus on the basics of the Gorian Bath. This will give you a good outline of what you can expect. You can also look at different types according to the gender of the silk status and according to the type of city you may find yourself in. There are several types of baths that I've seen in the cities. Some cities have one very large bath for the males, some very, very large bath for the females on either side. That's GP or Grenadian Port. Some cities have where you have what this one does, the tub behind me. I'm going to take you in next time and show you what that looks like, which is a two-tub system with a massage table. And some have all three, one large two-tub. I found that the other day. And what they're trying to say is a silk status, and we'll discuss that later. In a full bath, it may seem there are a lot of stages to go through, but there's plenty of space to bring your own personality into, much like you would to do serving in the tavern. If you struggle with creating emotes, this is a good time to get some practice in, and your master will love it. Two of the first things taught to a slave incidentally are the bath and the dressing of a man. Whether it's to become a bath girl or simply a private slave, is vital that a slave learn these services. Now, oddly enough, in Gore, or for that matter, anywhere, BDSM or otherwise, women aren't trained in this. And yet, like I said, it's probably the most intimate thing you can do. It's important for slaves to learn the oils, the strangle, sponges, and differences, the touches, and beggings. I'm going to do a whole tape on begging. That sounds silly, but there is a way to word things. It's vital to learn beggings. And the handling of the towels, words to be spoken at different times. Full, graceful prostration of herself and gratitude of being permitted the intimacy of the bath. So that's all going to be covered. The prostrations, I have a whole video. Go into my playlist and you'll see one on the positions, part 1, part 2. Now, there are many stages in a Gorian bath. It's not a quick dip as you would do a shower, but an experience. And that's why I'm emphasizing this. And yes, massages and oils are important. This isn't taking a bath or a shower with the girl. This is a whole thing. Few Gorian homes would have baths, rather just basins of water to wash, choosing instead to have a night of the bath, catching up in the gossip. So what they do is, and this is true, it's interesting, some cultures still do this. On Earth, if you go to Ireland, the men would go home around 5 and go hang out at the pubs and discuss what politics was done there. And in Gore, it's the same way. On the way home, the men would go into the baths, gossip, make friends, make use of a slave as well. And if we have a larger bath elsewhere to be perfect with this. And that's why I said that a lot of the cities have the large baths, not the small ones. The large baths are great for socializing, like in GP, but the small baths are needed for the girls to do slave service, not the big ones. Now, quote, the baths in many Gorian cities and towns are convenient and popular as gathering places. One can pick up the latest gossip news, for example, Renegades of Gore. I'd like to suggest every city has a sand pit night, tavern night, where the girls go and dance. Now, depending on the city, if you're a Calcodurnian or R, the men sit around, they talk, they make comments, they discuss topics. The slaves do too. But if in some cities, the girls do all the emoting, the men just sit and watch. I personally like the first style. where the men sit around and talk and visit. I would suggest that the men in the city set up a bath night where you do the large tubs. And the men go in, sit around, bathe, talk. The girls do service, and it's just like a pit, but it's a little more intimate. Quote, there were large, shallow round tubs of clay covered with porcelain mounted with open brick platforms, each platform about a yard high. In this particular bath, adequate enough, I suppose, for the area, the fires beneath the brick platform were stirred, tended, and cleaned with a long-handled fire rake. Now, if you want to look at the video, the intro of this, the one that played before you saw this, you'll see what that looked like. To be sure, it was late, and I suspect the fires had not been tended since perhaps the 18th iron. The waters, however, happily were still comfortably warm. They'd probably be built up around the 5th iron. I had hung my wet garments on the racks about the brick platform behind the tub. They would probably be dry by now. Each tub was some 7 feet in width, some 18 inches deep, and on a hook behind me, kept for towels and such, I had slung my scabbard, the sword. The baths here, of course, are very simple and primitive, the renegades of Gore. One of the misnomers was that the swords were never taken to the bathhouse. Not true. Renegades of Gore. By the way, if you want to understand bathhouses in depth, go to Renegades of Gore. But weapons were taken in, but the slaves usually, and we'll cover that, will ask to remove the sword. Hours of opening and organization. Bathhouses in a large city would generally have opening times. On the other hand, said Harold, quote, I might like to stop by the baths. They're closed at this a.m. Are they not, I asked. No, he said, not until 12th a.m., which was midnight in the Gorian nomads. It's sort of like bars in real life, where the bars would close at midnight. So the baths would be the same way, because that's where you go meet girls. Imagine if you mean practically they'd all with staggered times, advertised for men or women, or have more discreet changing facilities in place so the mistresses, where in turn the guards would, or someone outside the door, be sure no masters entered. Now, what they're trying to say there is that there'd be times for women. If there's only one bath, there'd be opening times for women, then opening times for men, and they'd be staggered. Now, in larger cities, they might have 2 separate bathhouses of the court. Let me show you a quote for this. Gore, quote, Gore cities have almost always segregated incidentally, if only by the time of day. This doesn't mean that bath girls may not be available to tend to a strong male's various wants in the bathhouse, or a handsome silk slave. If they were summoned, they may appear in attendance of the bathhouses or free women, the renegades of Gore. In the books, you will see references to the list of slaves' names, especially being written on the bathhouses. In many places in Gore, a bath was an occasion where the free would be served by slaves, and their use may be included in the price. This is sort of like, and you see that in men's bathrooms, locker rooms, things like that, where they'll write the names of the women on the walls. White silks and male slaves are used restricted in preparing the baths. Light fires, heat the water, making sure the towels are clean are available, or they are used for bathing the free one. But there's no reason a white silk cannot bathe a free man, as long as it's going to be just a bath. Many cities have her wear kamis and things while she gets in the water to avoid that. Okay. Bathing in general is a very erotic service, and the price of the bath includes the use of the red silk. Not all free men will want to use you, but some might. It's best to check when offering the bath. If the free wishes to use the use of a girl, then offer to find an unrestricted silk, red silk, to bathe instead. This is a long quote. I want to show you where some of the material comes from. Like I said, we're not pulling this out whole cloth. So I'm going to read the whole quote. This is probably the longest one. Master, she asked, may I come to serve you? I did not respond to her, but observed. She stood timidly blindfolded near the door. She wore a tiny, desperate bit of brown silk about her body. It was high on her thighs. It was her right shoulder and held loosely on her by a casually knotted, narrow disrobing loop fastened over her left shoulder. Please notice in silent gestures a tap on the left shoulder means disrobe. Here is why. A single tub would open the garment, dropping it to the ankles. She carried folded in several large colored towels and 2 sponges and oils to the bath. On the towels, too, were certain other articles. Among them was an open and round steel loop she had worn about her neck earlier. It, with its key, lay on top of the towel. It had been removed for her. She was about to assist me in the bath. It accompanied her there might be again, when she had bathed me, placed on her. Similarly, the steel loops from her wrists and ankles had been removed. However, they had been kept elsewhere. They did not accompany her. On the towels, however, coiled, there was a whip and slave cuffs and ankles, or leather with straps too, might be mentioned. There was, as usual, chains at the foot of the great couch, which might be lengthened or shortened. One chain terminated in a collar, which might be locked about a girl's neck. The other chain terminated in a small loop of steel and an ankle for the girls. I regarded her. Her hair was still coffered high upon her head and held as before with the braid of yellow cord, stout enough to bind her. She was barefoot, as common with slaves. "Master," she asked, "are you in the room?" I moved that she might know my presence. Now notice she's blindfolded. She can't see him. That is not required for bath service. That's just something this particular place is doing. "Master," she asked, "are you in the room?" I moved that she might know my presence. "Forgive me, master," she said. "I have awakened or disturbed you." I pulled away the mask I wore and discarded it to the floor of the great couch. I snapped my fingers. Apparently in this particular bath, the identities of the masters were hidden. So basically, he took off his mask because she's already blindfolded. He snapped my fingers for come, which means one snap. "Yes, master," she said, and approached the sound and knelt before me. "I'm Beverly," she said. "I've been sent to serve you." I did not speak. "It's a great honor for me, master," she said, "that one such as you select Beverly to serve you." I did not respond to her. The water had been ready, she said. Near the couch was a large, round, sunken tub, about 6 inches of water. To one side there were rising jars. She put an object and carried it on the floor to the right. "Here, master," she said, feeling for it. "It's a slave collar. You may want to put me at when you wish." She put it with a key to my feet. "Here, too," she said, putting the objects near the collar, "are slave cuffs and ankles." I regarded the objects with the tiny bells and belts and buckles and their attachments sewn in metal strap rings. "And here, master, is your whip." She kissed it and put it too at my feet. Now notice she kisses each part of what he's going to use. Okay? But never to his lips, just the instruments. "Beverly is now ready to serve her master," she said. I again snapped my fingers and the girl stood, silent gestures as 2 snaps. She stood lovely and straight, her hands now empty, the towels and oils and other articles on the floor near me. "Am I to bathe you now, master?" she asked. I jerked loose the disrobing loop on her left shoulder. She is now stripped before me. I walked around behind her. She lifted her chin. She trembled slightly and was extremely aware of my presence. I bent forward slightly. She'd been subtly perfumed. She shuddered. She'd felt my breast on the lower neck and on her left shoulder. I walked about and stood before her. "Yes, master," she said, reaching out and gently touching my chest. Her hands lingered there for a moment. I found the knot at the belt of the south cloth with which I'd closed the casual tunic I had donned. She undid the knot and parted the tunic, kissing me at the belly, and then went behind me and gently removed the tunic, kissing beneath the left shoulder blade, and then again stood before me. She folded the tunic and belt, kissing them. Each object gets kissed as you undress, and then kneeling down, placed them to the side. She again stood up before me, her head down. I smiled. The girl had been taught how to disrobe the master for the bath. I'd place the articles for the bath in her hands and conduct her to the side of the tub. She placed the articles where she might find them. She then took a vial of oil and one of the syringes on her hand, and I helped her step within the tub. Normally the girl helps the master, but she's blindfolded. I looked at her. She stood in the water blindfolded, waiting for me. Miss Beverly Henderson, once a proud girl of Earth, now a Gorian slave girl, waited to bathe a free male, of whom she must address as master and serve as he pleases. I stepped down within the tub. Then, kneeling or standing as it was fit, humbly Miss Beverly Henderson, with the oils and sponges and rising water, bathed me. Then after a few uhs, she toweled my body dry and kneeled before me, head down. I snapped my fingers and she stood. I looked at her carefully. I sensed the nature of her breathing. I touched my fingers to her side and noted her sudden, involuntary movement. I smiled. The Gorian Bath of sorts has many purposes. Now this is really the reason why I wanted this quote. So look closely. The cleaning of the body. Cleaning of the body, of course, is only one such purpose. And that's why I think a lot of people ignore it. They don't feel the need to get clean. But it has two major purposes with respect to the effect on the girl. The first is she's performing a lowly and humble task for a man. This helps her remind her she's a slave. Also, of course, serving a man, particularly in small and humble ways, probably for biological reasons, tends to be sexually arousing for a woman. Many men, I think, fail to understand that. When a girl brings a man his sandals and ties him on his feet, she's having a sexual experience. Many men, I think, fail to understand the pervasive and radiance, the depth, and contextual richness of female sexuality. It's such a wondrous, deep, and marvelous thing. He who denies a woman her right to serve a man, particularly in such small ways, denies to her a portion of herself that a man is not only a fool, for he is a natural recipient of such attention, but he is cruel. Such a denial, too, can make a woman ashamed to seek sexual gratification for such small services, usually unbeknownst to the boorish male, who ultimately connected with such gratification for this reason, incidentally, that those who secretly fear sexuality would repudiate them. It would be among the first to denounce this homely service of love in the case of the slave girl. Of course, it's almost done. Such services are commanded of her. She must perform them. This tells her then, on some deep level, that all is right, truly to be a woman. Indeed, she is given no choice but to be a woman. Thusly is her love unqualifiedly liberated. This type of thing, I think, which otherwise would seem inexplicable. The second major purpose, with respect to the effect on the girl, is that she's touching and in effect the bathing caress of the male body. She's intimately close to the male, even to the extent of sexual tacticity. Being alive and hormonally active, of course, is arousing to her. It's particularly arousing to a male slave, for she knows she is fit meat for the lust of men. Does her condition not tell her that? Too, she herself, though, is not touched. It is frustrating to her and naturally intensifies her desires. Using near the surface to the slave. To be taken in the arms of the master, he is master. Second, he is master. Second, it is not unpleasant to be watched humbly by a beautiful woman. Third, such service tends to arouse the girl. It is not uncommon when a bath has been finished, he to be towed off by the beauty, and then she kneeling before him, begging to be raped. The bath is finished, master, the girl standing before me. I jerk loose the yellow cord from her hair, and then with the cord tied her wrist behind her back. I thought she might want to be feeling herself tied. Now, that names three purposes. I named a fourth one, intimacy with your slave. So that is the purpose why I'm teaching this. This is almost done, but let's take a look at it. Merging the bath quotes in the books, there are 7 main stages of a full bath you should keep in mind. Not every bath you will do will be full detailed bath. Not all will end in the alcoves, but knowing the whole process will allow you to mold it to your silk status and time. For instance, you could, jump over the massage. But depending on the time, so always ask the master how long it's going to be there. Like all service as a slave, you'll find your own way to do things in your own style. Here are the 7 stages, and then we'll start on the next tape showing you how to do these. Step 1, acknowledge the order and make an offer for a bath. Check if the free only wishes to bathe, requires the use of a red silk also. Point out your restrictions if you have some. There won't be many, and because you're a slave, and also find a suitable slave if they wish. Step 2, preparation. Heating the water, fetching the towels and oil, helping the free undress. You should always beg permission to help them undress, to remove their boots, and especially to help remove their weapons. And we'll do that on the next tape. Contrary to some online teaching, slaves can touch weapons if permitted. Book. Slave Girl at Gore, the girl's code to carry everything. If you have any questions on that. but you cannot use the sword. I would obey any order but free to touch weapons, though in reality, not many situations a girl will be ordered to do so. I think we can safely agree slaves who are not under death command to touch a weapon. Stage 3, the first soak. Have them soak in the first bath. This is a good time for you to use your feminine charms, fuss around the bath, prepare things in the next bath, converse with the free about how was his day, his homestone, tease, flirt. Keep this stage vocal only until he's ready to leave the bath. There's plenty of time for more hands-on pleasing him. A few minutes of light rubbing down with the sponge or remove surface grime should be all that's needed. Now, quote from Assassins of Gore. I do not see how it could have happened, Nita was saying, bend over me, as I lay sleeping on my stomach in the heavily stripped piece of toweling about the side of the blanket. Her strong, dutiful hands rubbed the oils of the bath into my body. The daughter of, I'm not going to pronounce that, if none other said she should be safe. I grunted, not too concerned, Nina. Like most of the other baths, could talk a little, but the startling disappearance and a presumed addiction of Claudia's, the Prospero gossip of the knit. So essentially they were gossiping. Assassins of Gore. Step 4. So after step 3, you would lead the master out of the bath and get him to lie on fur towels. You'll place fur or towels. Applying oils and massage. This is when you can start to heat things up. Using various array of oils tailored to the needs of the free, you are serving oils for tiredness, stiff joints, moods. This is when I begin to show heat. Small, delicate fingers begin to massage firmly between the strong, sculptured muscles on the broad neck of the man lying naked before you. I would recommend 2 things. I have a sheet that talks about how to give a massage. That's in the box that I put out. And then learning about the flora of Gore will help you learn about which plant oils can be used for certain moods or ailments. Any Gore and green cast can teach you about muscles and bones. So there is also a sheet. I'm going to open this up in case you don't make it over there. There. There's one of the things I threw into the box is actually a more complete list if you look. But this will give you a chance to actually access this. Yes, girls, you can use a lot of imagination. This actually, when I do shibari, use of ropes basically, I use a oil in mine that I actually looked up and found out that it's tingly, it causes the flesh to heat up, and it has a pleasant scent. So my point is you can use this in your own way in doing the massage. And what's at the bottom, in case you're wondering. But these are different things you can bring up as you go. Let's move on. Step 5, scraping the oils. Use a striggle. You scrape firmly the entire surface of the free skin, removing all from the oil from the massage. You'll hopefully have all the grain dirt from your skin with it. The scriggle's not sharp. It's actually pretty dull. It looks like this. This is an actual one found in earth. It's in copper. That's why it's green. Copper, I'm sorry. And it's pretty dull. It's curved to fit around the body. And it will scrape off the oils, any dirt. Kind of like a modern day, the original modern day example of that. But anyway, that's what it looked like. And that's why the lesson says what it does. The slave just needs to be careful not to press it too hard. Granted, she's already cleaned them with a different method. As you have noticed, steps 4 and 5 take place out of the tub, which is why you want to lay them on a towel and massage them. Step 6, the cleansing bath, or second soak. Used to remove final traces of oils. Time to use your flirting. Or you may get more involved if your restrictions allow, meaning if you're red silk or white silk. Step 7, because slaves have no restrictions. Step 7, the drying and dressing of the free, assuming you have dragged off to the first. There is no cookie-cutter way or styles of doing a bath. They're just a guide. You may find the first rub with coarse oils, second then rubbing also, or you may end up just doing the first rubbing before the master takes you to the furs. So basically, you can tailor-make this and do it however you want. But basically make it yours. But more importantly, hopefully you'll begin the journey of starting to experiment. All my girls can do this.
That's all, folks.